So if you haven't noticed now, the year 2000 was absolutely loaded with official Pokemon game releases in North America. No other year was even close to having this many, which is forcing me to repeat myself here when I say it's because Pokemania was in its prime in 2000. We've covered Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon Trading Card Game, and Pokemon Puzzle League all within a 7-month span. But now it's time to step forward into a new era, Season 2. A new region, new characters, new storyline, and of course, new Pokemon. Welcome to Part 2 of the Paraspective as we delve into what could be considered Pokemon 2. But like with almost all of these episodes so far, this next pair of games was of course already out in Japan for close to a year at this point. That's right, Pocket Monsters Gold and Pocket Monsters Silver were released there when North America was just getting Pokemon Yellow. But also, there were Easter eggs thrown in for some hints at new Pokemon, even going as far back as 1997. The very first episode of the anime, Pokemon I Choose You, first aired in Japan in April of 1997, and then September of 1998 in North America. And in this episode, Ash sees a gold silhouette of a mysterious bird-like Pokemon flying above him, and not even his Pokedex could identify what it was. I remember when I first saw this, I just thought it was a Fearow and it looked a little different, but I had no idea what this was. Then there were a few other gradual introductions to new Pokemon in the anime. Ash, Brock, and Misty witness an egg hatching, revealing it to be a Togepi, the normal-type baby egg Pokemon, who eventually views Misty as its mother. Togepi became a part of the group afterwards. Also in 1999, during the North American theatrical debut of Pokémon the First Movie, there were also some debuts of certain new Pokemon. Before the movie itself, there was a short called Pikachu's Vacation, simply about Ash, Brock, and Misty letting their Pokemon enjoy a theme park for a day. But it's here where we first see the water-type blue mouse, Meryl, who I have already discussed in the Pokemon Puzzle League episode, as well as the normal-type pink bulldog, Snubbull. The movie itself debuted the ground-type elephant, Donphan. I don't really remember from back then if these names were known or not in North America, or if there were discussions as to who these new Pokemon were, but I'm sure there was. I already discussed in my Middle Evolutions video the legend of Meryl being referred to as Peekaboo, with all of the speculation of it being a water-type Pikachu, but even that's not all. On July 21st, 2000, the second theatrical movie was released, Pokemon the Movie 2000, which came out in Japan a year earlier because, of course it did. That movie had a short at the beginning called Pikachu's Rescue Adventure, which first showed the bug-flying type Lediba, electric baby Elekid, grass-type Blossom, and normal flying type Hoot Hoot. The movie itself debuted the new legendary bird Lugia, who appears on the movie poster, and finally a Slowking, an alternate evolution to Slowpoke. So the hype was there for a new game featuring all of these new Pokemon now in the public consciousness. And as far as the hype from me personally, it was at an all-time high. I was all in on a new mainline Pokemon game, even though I did not go see Pokemon the Movie 2000 in theaters. So like with all of the mainline Pokemon releases, this next pair of games is once again being developed by Game Freak. The company was basically a household name at this point. But original development for these games went as far back as shortly after the release of Pokemon Red and Green in Japan, which was in 1996. So Japan saw the release of Pocket Monsters Gold and Pocket Monsters Silver for the Game Boy Color on November 21st, 1999, both met with critical acclaim, thus increasing the hype for the English releases even more. Australia was the next region to get these localized over on October 13th, 2000, with North America getting them 2 days later and Europe's release in April of 2001. The Pokemon Gold and Silver releases were such a huge deal back then too. There were even 5 PT Cruisers made to look like Lugia that were driven around the US for a promotional tactic, with some playable Pokemon games attached, including Pokemon Gold and Silver. Pre-orders for the game skyrocketed. There were some name reveals, promotional CD-ROMs given out, and all the hype was real. And even though these were Game Boy Color releases, the games could also be played on original Game Boys, which was a huge plus, thus linking them to Red, Blue, and Yellow. Only the clear Game Boy Color games were exclusive to Game Boy Color systems. So per usual, let's transport ourselves back to October of 2000 and check out these boxes. So similarly to the red, blue, and yellow versions, these colors simply feature one Pokemon with the corresponding color in the background. But this time, instead of it being the fully evolved starters, these covers feature the 2 new legendary birds. The silver version features Lugia, the psychic flying type featured in Pokemon the Movie 2000, with a silver background paired with a gold swirl. The moniker of Gotta Catch 'Em All is still featured below the Pokemon logo, and that's basically it. Mainline Pokemon box releases are extremely simple and tend to follow the same trend of featuring one single Pokemon, and this is no different. I always kind of viewed Silver as the sequel to Blue and Gold as the sequel to Red, but maybe that's just me. The Gold version features the Fire Flying type Ho-Oh, and this is where you would realize this is the mysterious Pokemon that Ash saw in that very first episode. It definitely was not a Fearow. Nobody cares about Fearow. But just like with Silver, this cover is Ho-Oh over a gold background, now with a silver swirl. The back of the box states, "Gotta catch even more!" I don't know, I kinda like that. Enter a whole new world! With new Pokemon to capture, train, and battle. Meet Professor Elm and get the all-new Poké Gear, including map, radio, cell phone, and clock. Set the clock, then watch as day turns to night and events take place in real time, and be sure to keep an eye out for Pokemon that only come out at night. Good lord, that sounds amazing. A real-time clock to replicate what you, the player, are actually playing in the game. Also, Professor Elm instead of Oak. I think I see what's going on here. There is unrest in the forest, there is trouble with the trees. Dozens of never-before-seen Pokemon. Find new evolutions for some familiar Pokemon and discover whole new species. Your Pokédex will even reveal genders of some Pokemon. New evolutions of familiar ones. Awesome. I'm in. And there are now genders of some Pokemon, eh? Well, we already know about the male and female Nidoran variants, so will it be similar to that here? A male and female Marill, perhaps? A whole new world! Explore Johto, where there are new gym leaders to beat and 8 new badges to earn. I guess this is pretty expected. If this is like a sequel to Red and Blue, then it's not surprising that it follows the same formula. 2 new types, including Dark and Steel type Pokemon. Whoa, now that's also awesome. And now there are even more type weaknesses to memorize. Trade with Gold or Silver, Red, Blue, and Yellow versions to catch 'em all. Requires Game Link cable, sold separately. No Pokemon cannot be traded back to Red, Blue, or Yellow versions. Not compatible with Pokemon Stadium. Wow, very interesting. So how does that work? You can trade with the old games, but you can't send new ones to the old ones? Yeah, that makes sense, because those games don't know what the new ones are, so maybe you need to have only original Pokemon in your party to launch a trade? Compatible with Pokemon Pikachu trademark 2GS. Yeah, this is something I never even touched on before. Back in 1998, there was a Pikachu pedometer / virtual pet released, taking advantage of the massive 90s popularity of the Tamagotchis or Gigapets. Basically, these are tiny digital pets that you keep with you and periodically feed and clean up after. They were seriously all the rage back then. I had a Star Wars Rancor monster one myself. But this Pikachu one involved you walking around to acquire watts, which would charge up your Pikachu, allowing you to play games and give Pikachu gifts. But the next version, Pokemon Pikachu 2GS, coincided with the release of Gold and Silver, which directly connected to your game itself to give you in-game advantages. I'll go over that in due time. Then we see 2 art images of this new protagonist and a Pikachu. Not surprising that Pikachu is there, but also kinda, maybe? Does this mean all of the original 151 are in this as well? I know it said to trade with the old games to catch them all, but does that mean the old ones are also in the wild in this? And just like with Pokemon Pinball and Yellow, we get 2 gameplay images, one from each type of Game Boy to show that it plays on both. The top one is your player in a town next to a Pokemon Center and a Pokemart. And right away, look at those colors compared to the red and blue versions. They absolutely pop. Image 2 is a black and white scene of your level 5 male Chikorita versus a level 2 female Rattata. And these Pokemon sprites look better than ever. And it's unclear if this Rattata is owned by a trainer or in the wild, so I guess we'll see. The top shows its compatibility with Game Boy Color, link cable, infrared, and our old friend, the Game Boy printer. What crazy Game Boy images can we put through the printer to frame on our walls this time? Okay, I think we're ready for the game proper. Let's check out the silver version, as it was the first one I played. Don't you dare close your eyes. Wow, interesting opening, and it was mostly all original Gen 1 Pokemon too. First ones we see are 3 Shelter, followed by a school of Magikarp and a poor Lapras who looks like it's struggling through life. A Pikachu runs up to escort a Jigglypuff off screen, and then the music ramps up to flashes of the 3 new starters as a silhouette of a Charizard rises before it uses Flamethrower. It's honestly kind of a strange opening. I get that it's a look at some Pokemon in their environment, but it's interesting thinking of the ones they chose. And come on, Charizard? Really? Spoiler, but Charizard isn't even obtainable in this game without trading, so that's a little misleading. And you know, it's only there because it's so popular. But now I'm just nitpicking. Let's get into the game proper as I'll go through roughly the first area. So the single very first thing you do is set the clock and day of the week to match the actual real time and day. This is such a cool gimmick and part of your new equipment, the Pokégear. The Pokégear eventually does other things, but for now this works as both a watch and a phone. Yo, could you imagine though? Then you are greeted by Professor Oak, just like before, and he shows you a Marill. But one little difference so far, you only name yourself and not a rival. This comes later, but at least it's not beat for beat the exact same. You start in your room and go downstairs to talk to your mom, and all is par for the course. She tells you that a Professor Elm was looking for you and gives you your Pokégear. I started playing after 6 p.m., so walking outside, it is night. Also, times will be shifting around in gameplay, since, I'll be playing at different times. This game has 3 time phases. Night is 6 p.m. to 4 a.m., morning is 4 a.m. to 10 a.m., and day is 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. This does affect gameplay in a few ways, in that certain Pokemon appear in the wild at specific times of day, and some characters are around only during the day, etc. This applies to the day of the week, too. Your hometown is New Bark Town, and walking up to Professor Elm's lab, you notice a strange fella with red hair looking in from the side window. Approaching to him, he asks you what you're staring at and straight up assaults you on the spot. Yeah, this Pokemon game isn't messing around. But walking inside, Professor Elm now grants you your choice of 3 starters, mirroring the red and blue versions. The types remain the same. The grass starter this time around is Chikorita, the leaf Pokemon. Chikorita is dinosaur-like in appearance by being light green with big red eyes, a giant leaf on its head, and small green buds around its neck. Its name is a play on the chicory plant mixed with Ida, the feminine form for small. It evolves into Bayleaf at level 16, and finally, Meganium at 32. The fire starter this time is Cyndaquil, the fire mouse Pokemon. Cyndaquil is based on an echidna, or spiny anteater. It's small with bluish fur on top, a cream-colored body, and a blazing flame on its back. Its eyes are almost always closed. The name Cyndaquil is a combination of Cinder and Quill. It evolves into Quilava at 14, and the final form is Typhlosion at 36. The water one this time is Totodile, the big jaw Pokemon. It is a small blue crocodile-like Pokemon with red spines on its back. The name Totodile is a combination of Tot and Crocodile. It evolves into Croconaw at 18, and the final form is Feraligatr at 30. There are, of course, pros and cons to making your decision here, but they all end up being strong starters in the long run. Chikorita has the best defense and special defense of the 3, but the worst type effectiveness against the first 2 gyms. Cyndaquil is the fastest with the best special attack and has the best type effectiveness against the first 2 gyms. Totodile has the best HP and attack and is neutral to the first 2 gyms. So it's kinda like the unofficial easy, normal, and hard modes from Red and Blue flipped this time around. Grass has the toughest time starting out and Fire has the smoothest. But these are certainly not set in stone. And yeah, that's another change made for this game. Special is no longer grouped into one stat. Special attack and special defense are now the counterpart to physical attack and defense to help balance the game more. Chikorita, for example, has much better special defense than special attack. So Professor Elm tasks us with going to find someone named Mr. Pokemon. Heading west out of New Bark Town is Route 29. Yeah, you start out on Route 29, not Route 1. This is Johto, the brand new region for these games. Johto is based on the Kansai region of Japan and is located west of Kanto. So Route 29 is the new Route 1. It is here where you find your first wild Pokemon. Just like Kanto's Route 1, both Rattata and Pidgey are found here, except things are a little different depending on what time of day you're playing. Pidgey are very common during the morning and day, and not around during night at all. Rattata are very rare during the morning and day, and decently rare at night. But this is also where you discover 2 new Pokemon, also depending on the time of day. Sentret is the normal type scout Pokemon that resembles a meerkat, ferret, or sugar glider that are only found during the morning and day. And the other new one, only found during the night, is Hoot Hoot, the normal flying type owl Pokemon. There are often a lot of similar Pokemon groups found in subsequent games, in that Sentret is sort of like the Gen 2 Rattata, in that it's an early game normal type that evolves once, and Hoot Hoot is like the Gen 2 Spearow for similar reasons. This is also where you see some minor changes for the better when it comes to battling. You can now see genders of wild Pokemon. And in one of the best upgrades from Red and Blue, in my opinion, there is now an experience bar to show how much experience is left until they gain a level. It's such a small tweak, but helps you to gauge where your Pokemon are at so much better. There is also the optional route of heading north to a dead-end area of Route 46, where you can find the returnees of Pidgey, Spearow, Geodude, and the very rare Jigglypuff. To the west of Route 29 is Cherry Grove City, which has all the staples of a Pokemon town with the Pokemon Center, Pokemart, and people to talk to. No gym though. It is here where you get a map card for your Pokegear as well. Going north is Route 30, which is now different depending on the version you're playing. Here there are the standard finds of Pidgey during the day, Rattata and Hoot Hoot at night, but also Weedle and Kakuna on the silver version, and Caterpie and Metapod on the gold version, all only during the morning and day. Then there is one new Pokemon each per version. Silver has Ladybug, only during the morning, the bug flying type 5-star Pokemon that resembles a ladybug. The gold version has Spinarak, the bug poison type string spit Pokemon that looks like a green spider. So even though you don't have access to Pokeballs yet, there are a handful of team options for you already. When you find Mr. Pokemon, he gives you a mystery egg and hey, it's Professor Oak.
You were close.
Professor Oak tells you he's just visiting his friend, but straight up gives you a Pokedex because I guess he carries around all these high-tech gadgets to give out to random children. Exiting the house, Professor Elm calls you on your fancy new phone in a complete tizzy, telling you that something is a disaster and to get back to the lab quick. Well, this escalated pretty quickly. Insert Anchorman clip here. On your way back to the lab, you are stopped by that Chad who pushed you earlier. He continues to berate you and challenges you to a battle with his new strong Pokemon. His name is 3 question marks. Like the rival from Red and Blue, his Pokemon will always be the one that is strong to the one you picked. Since I took Totodile here, his is a Chikorita. After giving him the business, you find Professor Elm talking to the police, in which you discover that this bro straight up stole the Chikorita. Since he told you his name, you get to tell the police that his name is actually Matthew. Oh wow, weird. You give Professor Elm the mystery egg and he tells you to take the Pokemon Gym Challenge, with the first gym being in Violet City. A scientist gives you some Pokeballs and now the real game begins. So you kinda just backtrack your way to continue northwest of Route 30 to reach your first set of trainers. Nothing new here other than they now have actual names. Route 31 is next, which has the same encounters as 30, except now Bellsprout has a 20% find. There is also the option of the entrance to the Dark Cave, which is, well, too dark to see until you get Flash. But you are able to obtain more Geodude here, as well as your first time finding your old friend Zubat. And if you're really lucky, you can find another new Pokemon, the normal type land snake Pokemon Dunsparce. West of Route 31 is Violet City, which contains your first gym. And even though I like to talk about the first 2 parts of these games, for the sake of this coming across as a walkthrough, I think this is a safe place to stop discussing the game beat for beat. Violet City is home to Falkner, who is a flying type gym leader. Falkner uses a Pidgey and a Pidgeotto, but in a nice little twist, instead of just bringing in a Geodude to stomp these birds all over the place, these birds have a new attack of Mud Slap, which is a ground type attack that works just like Sand Attack by lowering your accuracy, except it also deals some damage. Once you defeat Falkner, he cries out for his dad's cherished bird Pokemon, a level 9 Pidgey, and you get the Zephyr badge as well as the TM for Mud Slap. So that about does it for the first part of the game. I know the game is over 2 decades old now, but I still want to stick to not spoiling the rest if by some rare chance you know nothing about these games and still want to play them. There are still a couple of gameplay changes that I want to point out that for the most part really improve gameplay. Items in your bag are now sorted by type, which is an enormous upgrade from that free-for-all thing that was going on in Red and Blue, in which running out of space was a common annoyance. This isn't Resident Evil, okay? You can also now give your Pokemon items to hold, which sort of acts like equipment to give it more of an RPG feel. Berries act as one-time uses to heal HP, status conditions, etc. Some items like Quick Claw give your Pokemon a chance at attacking first no matter what their speed is. Other items like Mystic Water strengthen the power of water-type attacks. Trainers now have actual names to make them a little more personified than before, and some of them give you their phone numbers for rematches or to give you items. This game also introduced what is known as shiny Pokémon. Shiny Pokémon are extremely rare versions of Pokémon that have a different color pattern. The odds of finding a Pokémon in the wild that is a shiny version is 1 in 8,192. So yeah, you could play through the entire game numerous times and never encounter one. The concept of shiny hunting has been studied to death and is pretty big to this day, and because they are so rare in this game, finding one really feels like a true reward. The only exception is later in the game when you always encounter a shiny Gyarados for story purposes. But by far the two biggest gameplay changes added in Gold and Silver are the addition of the Dark and Steel types and the breeding system. The Dark type was created to help balance the types more, as Psychic was pretty overpowered in Red and Blue. Dark is now super effective over Psychic and Ghost, and Psychic cannot hit Dark. Dark is weak to Bug and Fighting. There are 6 Dark-type Pokemon introduced here. Umbreon, the Dark evolution for Eevee, Murkrow, Sneasel, Houndour, Houndoom, and Tyranitar. The other new type is Steel. Steel is strong against Ice and Rock, weak to Fighting, Fire, and Ground, and Poison cannot hit it. The addition of these two types made Psychic a bit weaker and Fighting a bit stronger. There are also 6 Steel types in these games. Steelix, an additional evolution for Onix, Scizor, an additional evolution to Scyther, 2 brand new ones of Forretress and Skarmory, and also Magnemite and Magneton were changed from pure electric to now electric steel. There were also some type changes to 4 existing normal type attacks. Gust is now flying type, Bite is now dark type, Karate Chop is now fighting type, and Sand Attack is now ground type. A couple other notable changes were Ghost is now super effective against Psychic, Bug and Poison went from being super effective against each other to Poison to Bug being neutral, and Bug to Poison being not very effective. Also, Ice is now not very effective against Fire, which was weird that it was like that in the first place. And finally, let's talk about breeding. Red and Blue had the daycare center where you can leave a Pokemon behind, and for every step you take in-game, that Pokemon would receive some experience until you go back, pay money to take it out, and it will have grown so many levels. This game has the exact same thing, except you can now leave 2 behind. If they are opposing genders and within the same egg group, they will leave behind an egg after a set amount of time that will eventually hatch into a level 5 version of whatever the mother Pokemon was. Sometimes the baby will automatically know attacks that the father had as well. Also, the odds of a baby being shiny are significantly better. With the added bonus of breeding, some Pokemon now have baby versions. Pikachu now has Pichu, Clefairy has Cleffa, Jigglypuff has Igglybuff, Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan have Tyrogue, Jinx has Smoochum, Electabuzz has Elekid, and Magmar has Magby. The only way to acquire these babies is through breeding, so it is an essential part of the game in order to complete the Pokédex. The other new baby introduced is Togepi, a fan favorite from the anime. Mystery Gift is now a thing added to the series to take advantage of the infrared scanner. You can aim the infrared part of the Game Boy Color to another, and once per day, each player will receive an item at random. It was a fun thing to look forward to each day. A Master Ball was the ultimate prize. And this is also where you can connect that Pokemon Pikachu to GS. Adding watts on the pedometer can eventually be transferred for a mystery gift for your game. So that's about it for the major changes. As far as my personal history and opinions go, well, I was 14 when these games came out, and my friend Shane and I could not have been more hyped for these. Somehow it was arranged that we were each getting one of the 2 versions for Christmas of 2000, and that's exactly what happened. I got the silver version, and I still own that exact game and box to this day. I first took Totodile, even though I would say that Cyndaquil is my favorite of the 3 starters. Even though Shane and I were in our respective houses that Christmas day, I think we both spent the entire day playing these games. I couldn't believe how much was improved from Red and Blue, even though I still loved those games. We proceeded to play these constantly that Christmas break, and trade, do mystery gifts, and help each other through areas and discuss team additions and discoveries. The silver version probably remains to be the most hyped I've ever been for a Pokemon game, and it did not disappoint. At 14, I still felt like I was maybe too old for Pokemon, but I was also still a kid and old enough to understand gaming strategies and whatnot, so I remained to be all in on the Pokemon fandom. I also don't quite remember who was on my original final team, but I have a couple guesses. I played through the silver version so many times that the memories are bound to blend together. Feraligatr was certainly one of them though, as it was my OG starter. I possibly also used a Noctowl, Ampharos, Donphan, Xatu, and Gligar. Yeah, let's go with that for the sake of a final guess. I know I liked all of them at first. I loved Delibird the first time I saw it too, but soon realized it was not a strong team addition. Currently, some of my personal favorite Gen 2 Pokemon are Noctowl, Steelix, Scizor, Umbreon, and Heracross. There's my top 5 in no particular order. And a fun side story to really show my Poke nerddom, the car I own now is a black Kia Optima that I decided to name Houndour because why not? My girlfriend got me a Houndour keychain to hang from my mirror. Houndour evolves into Houndoom at level 24, so when my car hit 24,000 miles, she got me a Houndoom one to replace it. This last Christmas, she got me a Mega Houndoom one to keep the tradition going. And yes, I know how goofy that sounds, but I love them. Basically, Gen 2 means a lot to me and remains to be possibly my favorite generation of Pokemon.
Where's that Paraspectre?
Oh boy, everybody, get hyped. Yeah, Parasect's unfortunate absence in Pokemon Puzzle League remains to be a sour note for every Pokemon fan out there. But I'm here to tell you that Parasect has made a triumphant comeback and is indeed present in Gold and Silver. So how can you acquire this handsome fella or pretty lady in these games? Well, only by evolving Paras. Parasect is not found in the wild, but where can you acquire a Paras? Paras is located in not 1, not 2, but 3 different areas. You see, there's a thing in this game called the bug catching contest that occurs every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday in the national park. Within the contest, Paras has a 10% rate of showing up between levels 10 and 17. 17 isn't far from Parasect at all. Paras is also found in Ilex Forest between levels 5 and 6 at a 15% chance during the morning and night, and a low 5% rate during the day. Lastly, Paras is also found in Mount Moon. That's right, the Mount Moon, where you find one for the first time in Red and Blue. It has a 10% encounter rate and can only be level 12. So your best bet at getting a strong Paras early is during the bug catching contest. You can get that sweet Shroom Boy added to your team before Gym 3. Happy hunting, everyone. So Pokemon Gold and Silver were of course enormous hits. Almost everything was improved upon from Red and Blue, specifically in regards to gameplay. You could almost view these as remakes, but only in gameplay style. All I mean by that is you still pick a grass, fire, or water starter, go through collecting 8 gym badges, defeat the Elite Four, and stop a criminal organization. Exactly the same as Red and Blue. But these are most certainly sequels. They specifically take place after the events of Red and Blue. Gold and Silver were extremely well received, with scores ranging from B+ to even perfect A+ grades in some cases. Many consider these to be the best Pokemon games, and they are the best-selling Game Boy Color games of all time. There were so many gameplay elements that have carried on to this day even, but now is not the time to discuss those. Gold and Silver actually aren't my favorite Pokemon games of all time, but they are definitely up there. A high recommend for anybody starting out with the series, even with them being on 20-plus-year-old hardware. They are still fun to play to this day. Next time, we will be covering the final Japanese game to be localized years later. This is the last game released in the 90s there, going as far back as 1998 in Japan. In regards to North American releases though, we are going only about 3 weeks into the future, from October of 2000 to November of 2000. This is a very strange one indeed, but we will be going back to the Nintendo 64. Paraspectre will return for Hey You Pikachu.